I am a 35-year-old woman, and my husband is a 35-year-old man. We have been together for 16 years and married for 8. We've lived together this entire time with little to no drama. Over the years, I have always loved and admired my partner for his calm, even-keeled approach to life. When I have been spiraling, I have generalized anxiety disorder and post-traumatic stress disorder. He is a source of comfort. When he was going through his master's and PhD, I was there to financially and emotionally support him in return. We moved across the country for his program. I found work there and signed our leases as the employed person. We balance each other out. I am a life and common sense pragmatist, and he is an emotionally stable and hardworking guy, albeit the absent-minded professor type. 6 years ago, we adopted a dog who was middle-aged. She was lovely, but had her quirks. We loved her and had her for 5 years before she passed away. In that time, my partner did a lot of the walks, while I did the home care, medications, cleaning, feeding. We did not fight about this division of labor, and he was happy with it. After her passing, we agreed to take a break between dogs. After 4 months, I felt ready to bring another dog into our lives. We do not want kids, and I find the structure and forced outside time a key part of managing my anxiety. He agreed that we could get a puppy and maintained that it was a good idea. Fast forward to now. As soon as the dog came home, my husband became irritated at the smallest things. Granted, puppies are hard, but I took 2 weeks off and did all of the home and crate training, to the point the puppy was house-trained and fine sleeping in a crate at 12 weeks. I did, and still do, the vast majority of walks. I do the home care, bathing, feeding, training, medications, and vet as needed. He needs to do half of a morning walk when I have to go into work. We walk to the park together, and I continue on to the office 3 times a week. My husband works from home 100% of the time at a very stable, low-stress job. His words, not mine. I was mandated back into the office 3 times a week from previously 100% working from home as well, which was the case when we got our puppy. To offset this, I pay for a dog walker for those 3 days for the afternoons that I cannot be home to do those walks. Insight into my partner's hobbies and time spent. About 5 hours on role-playing games or board games a week. 2 hours for book club. Almost all remaining free time is spent on personal projects on the computer. My previously calm partner is now angry all the time and blames the dog. I can understand the change in lifestyle, but to be honest, and I am not sugarcoating this, our dog sleeps from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. every day. She gets a midday potty break and another walk by me or the dog walker. The dog does not bark or chew anything during the day. She is genuinely an easy dog, and my husband agrees, but is still irrationally annoyed. I asked what I can do to help and have started acting on the suggestions. I clean more, order the groceries, organize our schedules, take more of the dog tasks on. It was not enough. I asked, what else can I do to help you feel better at home? And he said, I don't know, I'm just angry and resentful all the time. I asked what he resented, and he said, getting a dog was the worst mistake of my life, which is pretty hyperbolic. I understand the frustration, but at this point I literally have no other options to offer. The puppy is well-trained and low drama, and again this is acknowledged by my partner. He has irrational anger about small inconveniences. This extends now to his hobbies. A board game didn't go well? He was angry for hours. As an anxious person, all I feel is that bubbling anger, and my immediate reaction is fawn. Do more chores, get him a snack, give him space, whatever. I am exhausted living like this, walking on eggshells. I have had a really tough 6 months myself, job change, surgeries, infection 19, but I have had to keep things locked down to avoid angering my partner. I just do not know what to do. This dog is important to me. While my husband has role-playing games and projects, this puppy is my hobby and project. The puppy brings me comfort and happiness and helps me stay engaged with the world. It sucks that this part of my life is causing so much distress in our relationship when it makes me, as an individual, a better person. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I agree with everyone else. I don't think the issue is the dog. I think it is health-related. He should be talking to his doctor about all of this. Irritability can be a symptom of celiac disease, poor sleep, sleep apnea, depression, and all kinds of things. I don't think the dog is at fault, and I don't think you doing more household chores is the solution. He needs to step up and take responsibility for his health. Comment 2. Just going on my own personal experience, but he should talk to a doctor. Both my father and brother have gone through similar situations and had hormone issues and had to get medications to help over the years. My mother, who is the most relaxed person I've met, told my dad his irritability and meanness were unacceptable, and if he didn't fix it, she was leaving with the dogs. Something to think about. Now for the update. I took the puppy to the park to see if it would help me and my husband. He said he needed to finish a work project, so he stayed home. We live in a quiet neighborhood, so I ran into one of my neighbors on our walk. She has a little poodle that she loves more than anything. She asked how my puppy was doing and mentioned how much she loved her own dog. It made me realize how nice it would be to have my husband act excited and happy about our puppy. He hasn't shown any interest in the dog at all. He used to love dogs, but it seems like that's changed. Anyway, when I got home, he barely acknowledged me. I tried to talk to him about our day, but the only thing he said was, "Yeah." I made dinner, hoping it would help cheer us up, but he barely touched his food. The puppy was so excited to see him when we got home. She jumped up trying to get his attention, but he just pushed her away and told her to sit. It broke my heart to see him treat her like that. The next day, we had a family dinner at my parents' house for my mom's birthday. My sister called to confirm the details and mentioned that my husband hadn't responded to her invitation. I brought up the idea of him joining us for dinner, but she said she understood he was busy with work. I hate that everyone thinks he's too busy to join us for family dinners. The whole thing with the puppy is really affecting our family life. At dinner, my parents showered the puppy with love and affection, and I could see my husband getting upset. My dad asked if he was enjoying having the puppy around, and my husband snapped and said it was a mistake. My mom quickly changed the subject, and I could tell she was upset. I tried to lighten the mood by telling a funny story about the puppy's first bath, but my husband didn't even laugh. After dinner, my brother suggested we play a board game, but my husband wanted to go home. He didn't want to stay and spend time with family. The next morning, I found him staring blankly at the wall. He just looked so sad. I suggested we try training classes for the puppy together, hoping it would help us bond again. He scoffed at the idea and said it wouldn't change anything. I didn't know what else to do, so I just let it go. The following week, my brother invited us on a weekend camping trip. I thought it could be a nice distraction for us. My husband reluctantly agreed to go, but I had to promise to handle all the puppy duties while we were there. He wanted to avoid doing anything with the dog, even on a family trip. While we were camping, he was so distant. He chose to sit alone by the fire instead of joining the family. I tried to include him by offering him a s'more, but he said he wasn't hungry. On the last night of the trip, my brother proposed a toast. It was a nice moment, and my husband finally spoke up. My parents listened closely, and my mom shared her experiences adjusting to new pets. After the trip, he seemed a bit more relaxed, but he still avoided talking about the puppy. I decided to take matters into my own hands and enrolled us in a puppy training class. When I told him about it, he was silent for a bit. Then he said fine and agreed to try it. At the first class, he was really surprised by how positive the atmosphere was. He even liked the other dog owners, which was a big deal for him. Over the next few weeks, we attended the classes together, and I noticed him engaging more and more. One evening, he even praised the puppy for learning a new trick, and I swear it felt like a breakthrough. By the end of the month, he told me he really enjoyed the training and saw the puppy in a different light. We decided to plan a family barbecue to celebrate all the progress the puppy made, and we invited my parents and siblings. At the barbecue, my husband took the lead in showing off the puppy's tricks, and everyone was so surprised. It felt like we were finally on the same page again. Edit. My husband struggled with low-grade depression, worsened by our dog situation. He didn't realize it affected his mood. The training classes helped him heal and connect with the puppy and our family. Am I the idiot for kicking out my lying boyfriend after discovering his secret life and prioritizing my daughter over his deceit. I, a 28-year-old female, caught my boyfriend, a 37-year-old male, in a big lie today. We have an 11-month-old baby girl, and since having her, we've only had intimacy a handful of times because it hurts me. We've been having issues with him lying about things. Today, he told me he has a meeting at 3:30, which is a bit unusual. I checked his location around 4:15. He gets off at 4:30, but usually always leaves early, but because of the meeting, I figured he would stay until 4:30, and it was somewhere totally random. I was calling and texting him, and there was no answer. I had a feeling something was off. He called me around 4:45 saying he had just left work, and I was like, "No, you didn't. Your location is somewhere else." And he said he had to go pick up a part for his Harley, and he left his phone in the car. I continued to tell him it's a lie because his location had been there since about 4. He immediately started saying, "I didn't do anything," which now looking back is his tell. About 3 years ago, I caught him on a messaging app talking to some girl. One of the first things he said was, "I didn't do anything." Anyways, he comes home and I'm still very upset. I kind of let it go, thinking maybe I'm overreacting, maybe he was getting apart. So we watch a show and go to bed. I couldn't sleep, and something told me to check his phone. That's where I saw the deleted text messages between him and someone. The texts were very vague, but they did mention emails. He's always been very good about deleting emails. I didn't see anything, but something told me to check the sent messages. And bingo, it was there. He was using a site called Private Delights. All the times matched up perfectly. The appointment was at 3:30 and the location was a match. I woke him up asking him if he thought I was stupid, but he said it was just a massage. Mind you, throughout our whole relationship, he's always told me he hates massages. He hates being touched like that. This all happened at 1:15 a.m. I kicked him out. I'm laying next to my baby girl, shaking and feeling sick to my stomach. I don't know what to do. I quit my job when I had the baby because I don't have anyone to watch her. Almost forgot, after I had the baby, I had to get a pap smear, and it came back positive for human papillomavirus. I confronted him about it because I've always been clean, and he told me that it could have been dormant from a previous relationship because he's clean and always has been. Now looking back, I'm pretty sure I was gaslit. Is anyone familiar with this site, Private Delights, and can tell me anything about it? What is it exactly for? I know nothing about it. The service he paid for was called Nuru Full Body Sensual Massage. What is that? Sorry this was all over the place. It's 1:55 a.m. right now, and I'm a mess. We've been together for 4 years. I thought we had overcome all of this nonsense. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Ever heard of Google? Sorry, but here is a 2-second search. Nuru, Japanese, nu, lit, slippery, is a form of erotic massage with full body contact while both the masseur or masseuse and client are unclothed and coated with gel, traditionally made from seaweed. Because it entails lubricated full body contact between the person giving the massage and a client with a happy ending, Nuru massage falls under legal prohibitions against prostitution in brothels in many jurisdictions in Japan. FBSM is an initialism standing for full body sensual massage. In slang, an FBSM is also known as a happy ending massage or rub and tug. An FBSM may also involve massaging other private parts in an erotic manner. Comment 2. There is no clinically approved way to test men for HPV. HPV can lay dormant, but if you have never had a positive test in the past, I would say it's unlikely it was a dormant virus unless you were at a period of high stress in your life. Considering how this person has treated you so far, he probably got the infection while cheating on you. Go get a full STI screening and end this relationship. And the intimacy has probably been uncomfortable because he gave you an uncomfortable STI. Now for the update. 1 week after I confronted my boyfriend about the shady stuff, I still had his things just sitting there in the living room. It was a constant reminder of his betrayal. I know I should have done something about it, but I couldn't bring myself to. It's just so hard to even think. I was just trying to focus on taking care of my baby girl and ignoring all the chaos around me. It felt like a lot to handle, but I didn't have any other choice. I had to keep going for her. My parents noticed I was really quiet when they called, and they offered to take my daughter for the weekend so I could have some time to myself. At first, I didn't want to, but I eventually accepted, hoping for some clarity away from the noise of my home. I really needed it. I felt like I was losing my mind a little. During the weekend, my mom casually mentioned that my boyfriend had been spotted out with another woman. She saw them at a local diner during lunch while out with some friends. She didn't think much of it at the time, but later she told me it had been bothering her. She casually mentioned that the woman looked familiar, but couldn't quite place her. That got my curiosity going, so I asked for more details about the woman. My mom described her as having blonde hair and wearing a blue jacket. I immediately thought of this colleague of his named Sarah. She had blonde hair and always wore a blue jacket. I started wondering if there was more going on than I realized. I tried to ignore it, but I couldn't help thinking about it. When I picked up my daughter, I decided to do some digging on my boyfriend's social media. I know I shouldn't have, but I just had to know. When I checked, I found that he had recently liked a bunch of posts from Sarah's account. I then found a photo of them together at a bar from a week before the confrontation. They looked so cozy, with their arms around each other and laughing. I felt sick to my stomach. The next weekend, we had a family get-together for my dad's birthday. It was supposed to be a fun, relaxing time, but it turned out to be anything but. My boyfriend showed up uninvited, saying he wanted to see our daughter. I told him he wasn't welcome and that he needed to leave. He argued, saying that he had a right to see her, but I stood my ground. My sister backed me up, reminding him it was a family event. He stormed out, shouting that I was keeping him from his daughter. It was so embarrassing. The next day, I got a message from Sarah on social media, asking if I was okay. I was taken aback and wondered how she even knew about me. I asked her directly how she knew my boyfriend. She said they were just friends and had been hanging out. She mentioned they had been getting drinks but didn't think it was serious. I felt so betrayed. I decided that I had to confront my boyfriend again, this time with proof. I gathered up screenshots of their interactions and text exchanges. It was really hard to see, but I had to do it. I sent him a message saying we needed to talk about Sarah. He replied, trying to brush it off, saying it was nothing. I told him I had proof and wasn't willing to play games anymore. He insisted I was overreacting and that he only cared about our daughter. I finally snapped and told him I would be documenting everything for custody purposes. He tried to laugh it off, thinking I was bluffing, but I knew I wasn't. I meant every word. I spent a few days organizing my notes and gathering evidence of his behavior. I decided to send everything to Sarah, exposing his lies and betrayal. I figured she deserved to know. A few days later, I got a message from her expressing shock and anger. She said she had no idea he was in a relationship and confronted him. My boyfriend then texted me, furious that I had contacted her. I told him I was done being disrespected and would fight for my daughter. He tried to manipulate the situation, but I refused to engage. I ended the conversation right then and there. I wasn't going to let him suck me back into his games. I started looking into resources for single parents because I knew I had to move forward. I felt like I was on an uphill battle, but I was determined to make it work. I just had to do it for my daughter. To answer a few questions, my boyfriend was quite involved in our daughter's life, which made this situation more complicated. He was her primary caregiver while I worked, so he had a strong bond with her. My parents were supportive, but didn't initially realize the extent of the betrayal. The weekend they took her, they saw him with Sarah, which led to their concern. I wasn't working at the time because I was on maternity leave, but I planned to return once I was ready. Am I the idiot for calling out my soon-to-be ex-husband for using me as a stepping stone before dumping me for his army career? I'm a female who is 25 and my soon-to-be ex-husband is 26. We've been dating since 2018, and in 2022 he decided to randomly join the Army Reserve. Up until then, he had no direction in his life. He couldn't afford college and didn't know what he wanted to do, and we lived with my parents. He had random jobs. I, on the other hand, had my own goals and path in life all figured out and worked a full-time job while commuting back and forth to school. In 2023, we got engaged, and in that same year, he rushed to marry at the courthouse because he was given the opportunity to deploy to Kuwait for 400 days and voluntarily took it. I thought nothing of it, as he said he wanted to grow in the army and deploy for us, as it would help him rank up faster, and the pay would be better as well if we married. I asked him if he was sure about doing this so soon, even though we were already planning the actual wedding. He said he was sure and loved me and wanted to be with me for the rest of his life. For the first few months, it's a little challenging to talk since the time difference is 8 hours, but it doesn't seem to be bothering him. And it didn't bother me as I was focusing on my own goals and was still very busy with work and going to school on my days off. He's so happy when I talk to him on the phone, and he raves about how he loves it over there and how he loves his job and how he is able to learn so much better and advance farther than he would be able to if he was in the civilian world. He was working in human resources. Fast forward, things start to seem off, and it's hard to get him on the phone. One day we have a fight, and he says that it's been hard for him to stay in love with me. But he quickly takes it back and says he was just in a bad mood. That sends me into a spiral, and of course, I could not mentally recover from that. He's never said anything like that to me before. Then later on down the line, he says he's depressed, and I'm getting hints like he is trying to choose between the army and our marriage, and he says he needs time for himself, and he hopes he gets better and it works out for us. One day he calls me at work after ignoring me for a week and me begging for him to talk to me. He tells me that he doesn't want a relationship with me. He doesn't want a relationship with anyone, actually, and I can do better than him, and we have no connection. He said he wants to focus on his career in the army and wouldn't explain anything further. I am so devastated and confused. Why would he rush to marry me, only to turn around not even a year later and ask for a divorce? I cannot help thinking that he just used me for 5 years as an ego boost and used my family and me to get a step up in life, as he had no better family to support him other than my own, who welcomed him in with open arms, gave him a free place to live, free meals, and even offered and gave him a job. This doesn't even seem like a legitimate reason for a divorce. It seems like him wanting to focus on his career is an excuse, as his career plans are still the same. It's not like some new opportunity came up where his new job path can't work with his marriage. Divorce is such a big thing. He never was one to give up easily on anything in life, and I cannot wrap my head around this. It does not seem right. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. This is the life of the military deployment widow, as they say. He has obviously found his fling over there, probably someone within his squadron or on permanent duty. It won't get better. This is the life as it is. I'm sorry, but you should think about your future without him. Comment 2. He has not done anything but mooch off you and your family. Now that he is getting on his feet, he doesn't need you anymore. Get the divorce and move on. Now for the update. A couple weeks have passed since my ex-husband called to end things. I finally managed to get my stuff from his apartment with help from my brother. I basically threw all my stuff in boxes and was out of there. When we were leaving, my brother noticed a box labeled Memories tucked away in a corner. Now, I'm not gonna lie, curiosity got the better of me, so I opened it up. Inside were photos and letters from his ex-girlfriend. Like, are you kidding me? There were also some military awards and certificates that I had never seen. You can imagine my surprise. My brother suggested we go out for ice cream to lighten the mood. While at the ice cream shop, I bumped into one of his army buddies. He mentioned that my ex was struggling with the deployment and feeling overwhelmed. At this point, I just wanted to scream. I decided to call my ex to clarify things about the box and his feelings. He answered, but the conversation quickly turned awkward. He said he didn't want to discuss his past relationships. I told him I found the box and wanted to understand what it meant, but he hung up on me, which made me really mad. The next day, I decided to text his sister, who I had gotten close to. I asked her if she could explain my ex's emotional state. She replied that he had been distant and seemed preoccupied lately. She mentioned that he had been spending a lot of time with a new friend from the army. What the heck does that mean? A week later, I went to a family dinner for my aunt's birthday. My ex's sister was there and ended up sitting next to me. We chatted, and I could tell she wanted to talk about him. She revealed that he had been having personal issues since deployment began. After dinner, I noticed my ex's sister texting someone throughout the evening. She later told me it was her brother trying to reach out to her. I decided to focus on my own life and started planning a trip with friends. During the planning, I got a message from my ex's sister. She told me that my ex was seeing someone new. A few days later, I got invited to a holiday party at my workplace. I decided to go, wanting to take my mind off things. At the party, I ran into an old friend who I hadn't seen in years. We started talking and ended up catching up over drinks. He asked about my recent experiences and shared some of his own. The conversation shifted, and I realized I was having a good time. I decided to keep it light and fun, avoiding any heavy topics. As the night wrapped up, my old friend asked for my number. I gave it to him. Thank you for reading. Edit. After the party, I decided to go out with my old friend a few times, and things have been great. We have a lot in common, and he makes me laugh. I've also been focusing on myself more and getting back into hobbies I had before. My ex's sister has been supportive, and she told me that my ex is still struggling, but honestly, that's not my concern anymore. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.